Okay there guys, it's Metro, and today we're taking a look at the newest dungeon on the Battle for Azeroth Alpha, the Motherlode dungeon. This dungeon actually takes place in Kizan, which is the Goblin starting zone. We don't know exactly what's going on here yet, as this is obviously not an area that we're able to explore on the Alpha, but it is a dungeon that is open for testing, and boy am I intrigued by this dungeon. We're going to talk a little bit about the dungeon and how it might play out in Mythic Plus. This is the first time I've ever done the dungeon. As of the time I'm recording this, I've yet to do it a second time, but I can already tell that this dungeon is going to be pretty much like I've been talking about all dungeons in Alpha so far. And really, we might as well get started with it immediately by discussing how trash is going to be the bulk of the challenge in the dungeon finally going into Alpha. It seems like almost every dungeon I've done so far has some very, very, very not necessarily difficult. Of course, it's normal, so I am literally a god at Blood DK, and sometimes mobs would not even challenge me if I wanted them to. But the fact that we are still wiping and making all these mistakes that we make towards the second half of the dungeon really says everything you need to know about, especially trash in dungeons. Now, of course, it being normal, the bosses, it's perfectly reasonable to believe that the bosses would be considerably easier than trash, but I'm looking more at mechanically, and I'm trying to think philosophically about why the dungeon might be difficult, not necessarily about looking at the numbers currently. But in case you do want to do that, the log has, or the description has a link to the log. One thing I'll note is that we have 3 warlocks. Man, they are really flavor of the month right now in the Alpha. Demo is really cool. That's Diabolical and Anulo in the group from the guild, good friends of mine. And of course, one of them is playing Warlock. Anulo is playing Mistweaver, and it's pretty cool too. But yeah, we do have 3 Warlocks, so that may be a little skewed since they're pretty overpowered right now. And also, you see my damage, pretty overpowered now. I would really encourage you guys to look at the actual trash. The AoE we're doing is a bit ludicrous, but regardless, the first thing I want to talk about is this mob here that you see me currently toying with, basically. It's really interesting. It's going to try to go to these suits, and if it gets to the suit, it turns into a mob that has considerably more health and does a bunch of different mechanics. So obviously, you're going to want to prevent that. This seems already to be a great dungeon for Death Knights because, again, we can interrupt that mechanic with Death Grip, right? So, of course, I can grip it, then AoE grip it, then grip it again, and then stun it. So I can effectively stop it from getting into the suit 4 times. Any type of stun, disorient, I'd imagine will break the cast, just like most mechanics similar to that. But one way or the other, as you see, the mob has a lot more health than the actual mob that you would have fought prior. And it does seem like, I think what's actually happening here is if there's sometimes the mob starts in the suit, like there's some, like the suit is already the mob, and then the mob gets out of the suit and tries to run into a different suit. So that would be the real ball breaker. I think, yeah, you see here, there's a suit roaming. So we're going to kill that suit, and then a mob is going to pop out, goblin style, and go running at another suit. So if we were not paying attention or simply were inattentive to this mechanic, we would be in serious trouble here. I don't know what that AoE is. That's weird. I think that's something, I don't know. Anyway, I'm using a lot of potions in this dungeon, so you're going to see a lot of damage from that. But every once in a while, some weird things happen, and I don't know where they're coming from. But so you will see here, pretty fodderish type trash up to this point. Nothing too crazy. I didn't even speed this up. So this dungeon actually goes quite quick. But yeah, here we go. So this guy is going to be, yeah, we really got to stay on him because we do not want to fight a second of these robots. And this is something that philosophically is going to be difficult no matter what. Like, it's going to be more complicated than your normal trash pack. You have to prevent that mob from getting to the robot. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting the mob for more time. And it shouldn't be too difficult, if everybody focuses it. But see here, I have no way of preventing it anymore. And it's really rewarding, I feel like, when you do it well. But if you don't do it well, it's like, man, come on, guys. But of course, it's just a pug on normal in the Alpha, so you can't really expect too much. But I could definitely see this is going to be another strong suit here for Blood DK. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Blood DK, so I'm going to always see the positives. But yeah, realistically, I don't know of many tanks that are going to be able to, toy with mobs in that way, where they'll constantly prevent them from doing what they're after. And we've seen mobs like this before. It's nothing revolutionary, surely, but the thing that I do like about it mostly is that it does, you know, it doesn't make, you're not going to wipe to that, right? But it's going to add time to the dungeon. So the best clears, the times that you're going to want to clear, you know, you're going to 3 chests, whatever, you know, triple upgrade it, however it works. You want to be able to make use of this time the best you can. You want to maximize everything about the pulls. And as you see there, I actually try to get more value out of it by running even further away when I grip it. I don't know. I think it's just really satisfying. I quite like it. The problem I have, though, is that the rest of the trash feels really inconsequential. I think that's almost just a diversion of interest, to be honest. Like, it's not that it's inconsequential. It's just I'm focusing so much on the other mechanics here that I'm not really paying attention to the other ads. And really, I feel like overpowered in this dungeon. I don't know. I think it honestly might be because DK got some buffs. I'll make a video on that soon. Probably this weekend. But Warlock is absolutely broken. They were already doing way too much damage before the patch, and now the latest build gave them a mastery, which they didn't actually have a mastery before Demo Warlock. So now you'll see Diabolical and perhaps the other Warlocks too doing, yeah, quite a lot of damage. And then that Malkazar thing is pretty cool. I don't know, man. The pets for Demo look really fun. But anyway, here you won't see too much on the way. Really, the heart and soul of this dungeon does not appear until after this boss here. But this boss is quite cool. Like I said, I don't know these very well, but he's got some very interesting mechanics. Are going to wait here for for potion. And yeah, the boss itself is definitely a good lust target. I'd say this is probably pretty standard, you know, opening of a dungeon. You really just want to burn him down as quick as possible. He does really 3 mechanics. One of them's pretty cool. This one here is just going to knock everybody back. I think I could AMS it. I don't know. It looks like it's a physical debuff, but anyway, it just does a dot. And then he's going to throw these bombs out. And the bombs actually are footballs, like a soccer ball. And you could kick it. You stand in front of it, and then it gets clicked, and it goes kicked. I can't speak that way, but anyway, you see there, one of the Warlocks, might have been Diabolical, tried to kick it, and he kicked it closer to us. So it actually came up and nearly exploded on me. So it's quite interesting. I could probably kick it at other players to troll them, so it's easier to solo. Or realistically, I could kick it away and we could do the fight quicker, you know, however you want to do it. And then he does this mechanic here. Oh no, that's the bombs again. I guess I missed it. He does like this kind of like crackling lightning thing that will stun. It appears to stun anyone in this. There it is there, yeah. So I guess it only stuns people it hits. I'm not really sure. I got hit by it and I got stunned. I don't think I can avoid it as a tank. Again, realistically, I expect to be able to AMS something like that. Who knows? Maybe that won't be the case, but I'm looking for, oh yeah, so Red Thirst still not working on the alpha. 4 builds in a row now. I don't know if I guess they're probably just removing it. At this point, I have to assume they're removing Red Thirst, which will be the most devastating nerf that the class has ever seen without question. But I don't know, as of right now, I'm still functioning perfectly. Obviously, these are normals, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so there you see the arrow that comes up when you try to click the bombs. Quite cool. I really like this fight. I think very good lust target. Actually get a mace. Looks kind of cool. I think I showed off. Actually, I probably equipped it, but it's actually worse than the weapon I'm using, so I don't end up sticking with it. But anyway, so okay, here we go. Now this is where things start to get really interesting. From now on, trash is extremely high density, and at least one of these mobs always do something very dangerous. So here I'm like, all right, come on, guys. I'm a bullet DK, you know. So I assumed I want to pull 3 packs here, of course, and get the 4th. What a surprise! That shouldn't surprise me. It was a stupid, really sloppy pull, but it's difficult to tell exactly. Oh, and then there's a 5th pull. Yeah, okay. So difficult to tell exactly what's going on, but I do know that I'm taking. See that it's like a earth-looking damage debuff. I think that stuns you or something like that. I'm not really sure. But it does a lot of damage. And then there's bombs on the ground. I think the bombs are actually from the trash dying. But one way or the other, I'm pulling it like it's a mythic. You know, I'm pulling like, okay, all these mobs are in proximity of each other. We got to burst them down, AoE them down, whatever. And then you see they're throwing there's a bomb. It just got thrown out. I believe I probably got hit by a couple of those. They do a good amount of damage considering it's only normal. And then I think they drop a bunch when they die based on what I've seen on this trash. But yeah, obviously there was just like 7 or 8 down. Yeah, there we go. There's 4 down now. So, yeah, just moved another 4 down, move from that. And realistically, it's not too difficult. But as you're going to see here, lots of trash. So, really, I make a poor choice here going left. I'm pretty sure what we want to do is just hug the right. I didn't actually, the map doesn't function in this dungeon for some reason. So, now I don't know how this happens, but we aggro that pack as well. So, like I said, realistically, we could have skipped the left pack and then just pulled the right pack. But That is not how it goes down, unfortunately for me. And I'm spamming on that freaking healing potion. But anyway, yeah, we got a lot of trash here. So I think I might. No, I think I probably die here too. But same deal. They all do mechanics. This is unfortunately the first time I've done it, so it's difficult to comment. But overall, the goal here is to look philosophically at the dungeon and say, there's a lot of fucking mechanics on trash. That's really all I can say about it. And there's a lot of mobs. So it really reminds me of Iron Docks. I feel like Iron Docks was the first dungeon in the game that ever really had this kind of mentality to it. And I'm gonna get hit by that bomb. Oh boy, yeah. So I'm actually getting stunned there too. That's not helping. But anyway, I feel like Iron Docks really was the predecessor in spirit to all these types of dungeons, where there's just an enormous amount of trash, at least 3 to 4 times more trash than you would ever want to pull. There's, a gimmick here and there, but realistically, every single mob does something that could be considered dangerous if you don't handle it properly. And that's really how I'm feeling in this dungeon. Now we're going to skip the left here. We're going to try to get these, and you're going to see another very interesting mob type. So these rock guys, basically what they're going to do, they're going to do a couple things, but the main thing you're going to see here is a mechanic that does like this AoE, it's kind of like a interruptible earthquake, I'd say. So there you go. Earthquake. Now he's got a shield on him, and while the shield's active, we can't interrupt, but you break the shield, and now you could interrupt with the regular interrupt. I just choose to stun it because I didn't realize that the shield was what is causing that. But yes, again, so so you're going to see it here. I take a pretty ballsy approach to the next part of the dungeon because I feel like I'm pretty confident about interrupting these as a Death Knight. I'm gonna mount up, and we're gonna go real big. We're gonna go to the top here. The small guys don't really seem to do much, but yeah, we're going to pull 3 of these guys together, AoE them down. There's a 4th I could have pulled too, really. If I did it again, I probably would have pulled all 4. But so all you got to do is just try to either like AoE stun there, like Anula does. But all 3 of them are going to do it at once. Pretty much, unfortunately, cannot stop them all. So I just run out of range. Luckily, we have 3 range. Use a grip on one, interrupt the other. Could stun, could knock them back, something like that. But this is making the trash more like elongated, like you have to fight it for more time when there's mechanics like that. And I guarantee you would not be killing those mobs that quickly on Mythic plus 20 or something like that. So here we're going to go with another big pull, multi-mob types here. We don't really learn much from this, but again, multiple types of mechanics all having to be dealt with. And luckily as a Blood DK, a lot of them are actually interruptible by grip. Obviously we have a ranged interrupt, we have a stun, we have an AoE grip. Lots of really good options as Blood DK. And the mechanic there is kind of difficult to see because of the angle. So, yeah, we just got to either interrupt it or move out of it. And, of course, not interrupting it and moving out of it means the mob will die slower. Which I just really like. I don't know, maybe you're sitting here thinking like, oh, you're just saying the same thing over and over. But it's actually really astounding to me because for me, looking at Legion Mythic Pluses, I think a lot of the trash is just absolutely subservient to the boss. It does nothing unique, and then there's a couple dungeons that are the complete opposite, like especially Seed of the Triumvirate. Really, the Karazhan dungeon is pretty unique in that way too. Now this, I don't realize that this is actually a boss when I pull it, but here's another very unique encounter. So there's going to be 4 of these mobs, these rock mobs. They do appear to fixate. I can't permanently keep threat on them, but of course I could grip them. And the mechanic, there's like that, I picked up this little totem. It stuns these mobs, and I believe they're going to either kind of like channel, like right now they're channeling AoE, but of course we have all range, so nobody's taking damage from it. And then they do, I think they do, like, I'm not sure. That one is really large. I don't know if he did a channel or some kind of mechanic to make him very large. But it's basically just an AoE fest, and they're all kind of running around in circles. So guess what's really strong? AoE Death Grip. And regular Death Grip too. And stun, you know what I mean? So it's really cool. I think this is probably, out of the 4 dungeons I've done so far in the Battle for Azeroth Alpha, I would say the dungeon that represents the Death Knight's strength most is definitely this one. Very cool looking encounter as well, although he dies really quick. I don't know, maybe the boss is taking some type of increased damage. Realistically, he's probably got a lower health pool because he's got those ads. And then he summons another ad here. But of course, normal, so we don't really get to see the full gambit of how the fight is going to, repeat. Realistically, I'd imagine we'd see probably many, many, many ads if you're doing this on a hard difficulty. That's a peculiar thing there, too. They took stats off what appears to be the Azerite gears. I don't know much about that. That'll probably be a different video. We'll talk about that. Now, here's a weird little thing here. I don't realize the significance of this little train thing, but basically takes me like 30 yards. And then I realized later that this area that we just passed through is covered in mines. See those little pink bombs on the ground? You can't see them anymore, but so you definitely don't actually want to run down here. So that's kind of strange. Now, here we go. Lots of trash, a lot of high density mobs, and they all have pretty potent mechanics. You're going to see another wipe in here, and of course, once again, only on normal. Those guys hovering, the masterminds, they do a lot of mechanics. They do a lot of damage. They do that, yeah, that chain there. They can't be gripped for some reason, so it's actually quite difficult to keep them under control. But as you see here, we're about to somehow aggro even more trash, and things get out of control. So I don't really know what the right approach is. Like I said, first time I've ever done the dungeon. I can't process that type of information that quickly, but I'd imagine you're going to have to be really careful here, especially if it's something like bolstering or busting, you know, one of these affixes that the trash becomes infinitely more difficult when you pull multiple of it. But as you see there, I actually try to kite and I run into a grenade. Now that is going to be something that we're going to learn a lot about. I was going to get a battle res, but yeah, it didn't work out. Anyway, there you go. I run into another one. That's what makes me realize, like, oh, right, okay, those are grenades. You cannot run through that minefield there. So that actually comes into play a little bit after this trash. But one way or the other, we're effectively navigating a minefield in multiple different ways, especially down here with this trash. I would say this is the metaphorical minefield that I would normally say of a dungeon's trash layout. There is so much trash that if we do not follow a very precise route and pull precisely, we are going to have a lot of extra trash. And of course, Mythic Plus, you do not want to fight more trash than you have to. So I said, all right, let's just pull them back. So these are pretty, like, relatively easy. I didn't realize just how easy these mobs were actually going to be when we were fighting the other ones. I thought they would be similar, but yeah, these mobs are just like rats. They've been turned in. But somebody gets knocked away by one of the bombs, and we've aggroed 2-packs again. So there you go. Yet again, we've aggroed multiple mobs without intent, and now 2 masterminds, which are definitely the hardest packs, the hardest parts of these packs. That mastermind there is doing a lot of damage. Doesn't seem to always channel on the tank either, which I don't know exactly how this works, like I said, but does a lot of damage. People are dying. Damage dealers are getting killed. And yeah, that guy does this leech orb or something like that. And I guess whoever it hits, it heals him because they're healing a lot, taking us a very long time to kill them. And of course, all again, thanks to poor planning, poor pulls, high density trash mobs with many mechanics. And you're going to see, I think this is going to be BFA. I really do. I think the long and the short of BFA Mythic Plus, what did we learn from Legion Mythic Plus? Make the trash harder, make the bosses less of the focus. Obviously, bosses are still going to be challenging. I mean, if you look at normal, Neltharian's Lair or something like that, I don't think anybody would say the bosses are hard, even when you're scaled down. But realistically, the trash becomes the bigger focal point. Trash becomes where you can gain and lose more time, and I think that's really healthy. I think that's really good for the dungeon overall. I think it breeds a better type of player in Mythic Plus. I've always liked trash. I've always found trash to be what I like the most about dungeons, maximizing my DPS, my HPS, my utility on trash. I think that's really where a tank especially, but any dungeon player can shine. And of course here I'm getting stuck on that inanimate object just to bait the mobs. It's a very important thing, a very important technique. It's called skill baiting. It's where you intentionally make a very silly mistake and you trick the other player. Now in this case, the other player is an AI. So the AI, of course, is going to get tricked too. And it's going to die very quick because of it. So anyway, that's a joke. But so yeah, I pull that thing because I want to see. I can't like, it's just, it won't get gripped. I don't know why. I guess because they're like turreting. They're like standing in a location and channeling so they can't get gripped. But that mob is pesky. Let's put it that way. There's another mob there. I can't see the name of it, but it does this like AoE silence, kind of like in Vault of the Wardens. We've seen a lot of mechanics like this over the time. But yeah, it does an AoE silence, kind of like a cone really. It's not AoE. Shoots it out from in front of them. So all the meanwhile, I'm trying to get in position of that mastermind, trying to get in range of it. Can't grip it, can't move it. And the mob is now shooting out a silence, silencing my full caster group, right? Just silence all 5 of it because of my poor positioning. So here we're going to take a pretty good gamble. I say, let's skip that right pack. Should be pretty easy as long as nobody aggroes. Now this is a large pack. 2 masterminds, a couple bomb guys, and another one of those guys that do the silence. I can't really tell the names, but regardless, another tough pack. High density mob, but this is actually just regular. It's all one pull. So this might be on teaming, could be really tough, right? Reminds me of kind of the top level as you enter Halls of Valor after the first boss. A really large pack, a lot of casters, a lot of mechanics. And if you don't do it right, you're just going to get farmed. You're not actually going to be able to stop all of their casts, so you're going to have to really burst them down, target the correct ones, use AoE interrupts, AoE stuns, stuff like that. But of course, we do overpowered and normal, like I said, multiple warlocks. I really think spec is absolutely broken right now. I'd encourage you guys to take a look at the logs. I think you would agree. Here's another boss. This is actually a pretty boring fight, but a really cool thematic encounter. You're going to see here, I really like this caramel. It looks like caramel. Ugh, I love caramel. But anyway, you can't eat this. It actually does damage to you. Now imagine if caramel does damage to you IRL. Actually, I guess in some ways it does. But anyway, let's focus on the fight, guys. So yeah, this fight is actually really straightforward comparative to all the other fights in the game. It really does almost nothing. Just puts that dot out. It seems dispellable, so whatever, dispel it. Doesn't really matter. It's a blood decay. But she's going to shoot stuff out at the group. Warlock is managing to stay in the middle of all three of those puddles, doesn't even have to move. Very easy without any melee, because even when she does target me, I never even have to move the mob. But yeah, it just seems like she targets areas on the ground where players are, and you just have to move. So very basic. And then it's going to do one other mechanic. It's quite interesting. Actually does kill the player. I think it's coming up here shortly. It's right at the end. But again, we're flying through these fights so much, I can't actually see, what the mechanics are. I can't actually learn. That's why part of the reason why I would want to solo these, so I could actually learn. So that is it right there. It does like a frost-looking ability, and it pushes you back. I don't know exactly, how to prevent it, but really you just got to move out of it, I say. I don't really think there's anything to it other than that. See, the Warlock just moves out of it and survives, but actually he dies to it. Wow, okay. Interesting stuff. So yeah, it's a fight that was, very, very plain for about 75% of it, and then the last 20% was very difficult. Apparently, killed 2 people. So, okay, now here is the creme de la creme, as they'd say in Germany. Very, very interesting area here, and we talked about minefields this whole time, which is quite ironic, because without question, metaphorically and literally, this is a minefield, and first things first, are going to be, again, lots of mobs that cannot be gripped. This mob is going to repair that robot. So that's something you definitely got to interrupt, because that robot does a lot of damage. But what you are going to see do a lot of damage to that Warlock right there is there's going to be little bombs on the ground that kind of look like the bombs from Iron Juggernaut back in Siege of Orgrimmar. If you guys have played in MoP, you remember those, the way the bombs looked. Kind of a unique model that came with that raid. And they're here again. So what happens is they're on the ground. They don't even have a health bar, but when you run over them, they spawn. They turn into an actual interactable thing, and they will chase a player. And if they reach that player, they do a significant amount of damage, and that is only on normal. So I'm soaking them. It does appear to be like fire damage or something. It's magic, so I'm using AMS, as you see, taking almost no damage from it. But it makes it, we can't fly through this. I can't run ahead and pull 50 mobs. We can't mount up and run, because if we do, there's going to be like 5 of those bombs chasing us, and they will get to us. So realistically, I'd say the only way to deal with them is either have the tank soak them, or simply kill them before they reach the player. Try to kite them one way or the other. I'm not actually sure what's going to be the right choice, but either way, as a tank, I'm able to easily soak them. I'd imagine probably be similar in Mythic Plus, but if they bolster and you're fighting trash when one spawns and it blows up, well, the trash just got bolstered for free. Basically, no, you couldn't have done anything about that. So, interesting stuff to think about. And here, a pretty good opportunity to pull 4 mobs. I'm really cautious of that robot. I'm really cautious of the bomb right ahead. But I want to make sure I'm staying ahead of this group so I could easily soak these bombs. Because like we saw earlier, the Warlock actually got one-shot by that bomb. And this is on normal, so very interesting. Now, I don't know, the bomb does seem to fixate. Picks a target, targets them, and then runs towards them. It's called like Seek and Destroy, which is a great Metallica song. But I think it might hit the first target. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to test that extensively. If you guys know, let me know down below. But I have a feeling that's what happens. So if it's targeting, say, one of these Warlocks, one of the three. I could run up ahead, I stand in front of that bomb, and it's going to run into me and explode on me instead, which is definitely what would be good for the group. Now, as you see there, we got a little bit too close to the one on the left, and it's going to track on the tank. Oh yeah, no, there we go. So I did actually get to test that. It's not going to track on the tank. It's going to track on the healer, the monk, and I ran into it and it exploded. So yes, again, I can actually make sure that these explode all the time. Very cool, and again, makes you really be cautious here, because as you see on normal, they're doing about 75% of my, or 25% of my health, doing about 90% of the DPS health, and I presume they will explode and hit multiple people. Actually, that one did almost 50% of my health, so that's about 20% with AMS up, really. So I assume that they will explode and hit multiple people. I'm not sure again, but I don't think you could stun them. I don't know. I haven't tried. Maybe you can to prevent the cast, but yeah, one way or the other, a verbal warning. let's say that a lot of minefields in this dungeon, literally and metaphorically. A lot of trash groups that you really need to be cautious with, and this is only normal. So of course, multiple mechanics. That repair mechanic there, another bomb spawning. And I'm just going to run over to it. Actually, that time it's going to get to the... I'm not sure what happened there. Didn't see it do any damage to anyone that time, but I don't know. Very interesting. The layout of the dungeon is quite unique. And this last boss is probably one of my favorite in any dungeon so far. He looks like a Mimiron, which is quite cool. And he actually does some mechanics similar to Mimiron. He does kind of that Gatling gun spinning up type mechanic where he kind of spins around in circles, shoots the gun, does a lot of damage. Kind of makes you think, where should we tank him? Do we want to tank him in the dead center so people have to constantly rotate? Or do we want to tank him on the side and then have everybody stack up, heal through the damage for a couple seconds, and then, you know, the rest of the time he's spinning, it's literally impossible to actually get hit by it. So, you know, you got to consider that. I don't know what top groups will do, but for us, of course, without lust or anything like that, it takes a little bit longer. We see a few more of these mechanics. That's a pretty unique mechanic. Sends a Wowhead rocket out at a player. And when it hits them, it explodes for that giant circle. Quite slow moving, though, so you could simply move. And then, you know, everybody else moves away from it. So one person takes it maybe to the east. Everyone else moves to the west. And that's that. Pretty cool. As you see, the Gatling gun kind of looks a little different than it did on Mimiron, but it's similar mechanically. Just got to move from it. And then he does that Wowhead rocket thing again, which is pretty cool. But really, the fight, the part of the fight, I'm testing to see if it's magic, but it doesn't appear to be. It seems physical. Unfortunate for Bloody K, but anyway, the part of the fight that's about to happen is really cool. He's going to do like a second phase where he's immune, and he's going to summon these ads. Now, of course, the ads are grippable. Very cool. I always love Death Grip. I don't know exactly what's shooting the fire. I assume that's the boss. I don't know exactly what function the ads serve. I think they're doing some kind of mechanic, but kind of just interrupting them, gripping them all around, so we're never really seeing it. Man, do I have to say that? Oh God. That Chaos Bolt mechanic or animation just so good. But anyway, so he's got a couple stacks of a shield here. We want him to jump on these piles of dynamite. It's kind of cool. I was more impressed by it than I probably should have been. I was like, oh, that's such a cool mechanic. But then, you know, it happened again, and I was like, wait, this is kind of stupid actually. But it doesn't pick me. It picks me twice. Third time was on the healer. So it doesn't mean everybody has to be aware. And kind of like the Cups game, if you make a mistake, it's going to add a lot of time to the dungeon. Or perhaps if it targets somebody who's not anywhere near one of them, it's going to add a lot of time to the dungeon. And that could be a problem too, especially if you don't make it over in time and you miss an entire, like, you know, where he falls on the ground thing, entire phase of that, whatever. So he's going to finish up with the same mechanics, and then he's going to turn into a little goblin, and we're going to absolutely rape his carcass, which is something that I like to do. But that's pretty much everything. And then we're going to take a nice little taxi ride over back to the start of the dungeon. The boss didn't seem to drop loot. Well, it dropped, I guess Diabolical had it in the mail. But anyway, that's it. I really like the dungeon. I think there's a lot of stuff to think about in Mythic Plus, especially trash. Hopefully you guys will have some comment on that. If not, then I don't know. What could we talk about? Maybe we could talk about everybody's favorite toothbrush. But anyway, that's it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Otherwise, hope to hear some discussion about the dungeon. And look forward to more videos coming soon. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.